My name is Neubia Harris, and I am an education attorney based in Raleigh, North Carolina. As an education attorney, I represent K through 12 students and college students in matters versus their institutions, whether it be for disability discrimination, race discrimination, failure to follow federal and state law as it relates to special education, bullying, and other matters. I have been a member of the North Carolina Association of Black Lawyers for 3 years. I got an email. Asked about what I do and would I be willing to speak. And I said, well, sure. I should probably join though if I'm gonna come talk to you guys. And so I ended up joining. I went to that first conference and kind of listened to the presentations and thought this is very important information. And one of the things that they talked about was younger attorneys don't join the organization. Surprisingly, I'm one of the younger attorneys, which is shocking. I don't feel like one of the younger attorneys, but I am. And I think it's important for us to know that these groups still exist, that they're still relevant. I think we tend to think of the Black Lawyers Association or the Black Medical Association or Black Journalists Association as relics of the past, or HBCUs as relics of the past. But they were created for a reason, and they're still relevant, and it's still helpful for our communities today. So that was one of the reasons I decided to maintain my membership and to keep coming and to be actively involved, to sign up for the directory. I want people who look like me to call me when they're having trouble with schools because I know they're being ignored, right? But if you don't know where to look, how are you gonna find me? So I think that the networking is important. I think the social justice issues are important. I think the camaraderie is important. And overall, I think the organization is still relevant. One of the presentations that I did last year sparked a lot of debate and dialogue amongst some of the members. I'm a lawyer, right? Sometimes I like to debate and have conversations about what's going on in current events. And we were talking about how North Carolina schools are going back to segregation just by virtue of district drawing and people with wealth pulling their children out of public schools, the charter schools, the voucher program. And it raised this discussion about, is it a we need to do better as a Black community issue, or is it a legal issue? I think it's both, but it definitely resulted in a heated discussion, which I had a tremendous time with. I absolutely loved it. I like that we have dialogue and that we can exchange ideas and we can come together to try to figure out what's next, right? And I like to think a lot of conversations were sparked from that conversation. One of the things I really like about the organization is the conference. We have this opportunity to come together and talk about matters that are legally relevant to our community where it may not get the spotlight in other conferences. So you can go to the North Carolina Bar Association conference, you can go to the Wake County Bar Association conference, and they may have one topic, one session that's of interest, particularly for African American attorneys. Having the opportunity to come together with like-minded attorneys for the most part and being able to talk about things that are relevant to us, that matter to us, that are important to us for 2 or 3 days is amazing. I had a very, very good experience. I spoke at the last 2 conferences, and I found it refreshing to be able to share some of that information about what I do, education law in general, because so many people just don't know what their rights are. They don't know what their children's rights are. And so getting that information out to our community was very important to me, and I enjoyed doing it. And I think that's the importance of having kind of these affinity groups that come together every now and then. I think it is important for us to unite in a way that our predecessors and that our ancestors have done. I don't expect it to look exactly the same because we have AI, we have tech, we have access to information that's a little bit different than historic peoples have had. However, I think it is going to be incumbent on us to push back, on what is happening with this administration, to push back on the cutting and reduction of DEI, to push back on diversity being a bad word, to push back on wokeness being a bad word. None of these things are bad. These things are beneficial not just for African Americans, but for the entirety of our country. It makes our country a more equitable place. And I think we are the ones that are eventually going to have to stand in the gap to make sure that those protections aren't eliminated entirely. If you are not a member yet, you absolutely should be. So we hope that you join us.